Day one of Broncos training camp open to the media is in the books, and I want to run through some of the top storylines that came out of it, what we saw, what we learned, what we heard. There's a lot to unpack on today's video because, some of the pads came on for the first time in a long time, and it was great to see. But I do want to begin by saying it is just one practice. So whatever you hear today from me, from other YouTubers you watch, or other places you go for Broncos content to read, just remember, not take it with a grain of salt because these things are important, but don't make mountains out of hills. So before we look at any of the top storylines, we are getting our asses kicked in the month of July in subscribers by the Chiefs Report. Now, we kicked their asses in the month of June, so I want to make it another straight month of winning. So make sure to subscribe if you're not already. You cannot beat the Chiefs in the fall if you don't beat them in the summer. That's the old saying. Now, day one observation I have was the quarterback battle. Everyone wants to talk about it, and understandably so, when the tough pill that people need to swallow is there's probably not going to be a victor claimed after just one practice. Now, what I noticed was, for starters, the order of operations for the quarterbacks went Jarrett Stidham, Bo Nix, and then Zach Wilson. So by no means is Bo Nix the anointed starter already. My guess is tomorrow's practice will probably rotate those around like we saw in the spring. That rotation, though, is just not going to go for the entire summer. At some point, the coaching staff has to decide which quarterback is looking the best, and they need to pick that quarterback moving forward. But early on, all three quarterbacks had some good moments. Zach Wilson, I thought, had some nice throws today. Bo Nix definitely had some nice connections with Greg Dulcich, who we'll get to later. But all in all the quarterbacks were in a good dose and rotation with the first-team offense here and there, and no one clearly emerged as the superior quarterback. So I'm sorry if you were hoping to hear Bo Nix or Jarrett Stidham or whoever you're really pulling for, I guess, which should be Bo Nix. It looked awesome, which not saying you didn't, but the other guys look good too. Next observation. I'm looking forward to this one. People, and you know who you are, need to apologize to Javonte Williams. I understand the offseason can be long. It can be boring at stretches. News can be slow. And so everyone starts to try and manufacture things. I've been guilty of it from time to time. But the first day of training camp was a big slap in the face to everyone over the last 2 or 3 months that said, I don't think Javonte Williams is going to make this team anymore. I think Jaleel McLaughlin is going to be the runaway starter based on how he looked in the spring. Oh, not the case. Javonte Williams was running with the first-team offense from the start of training camp. Troy Rank tweeted this out. I thought you guys might like it. Sean Payton praised Javonte Williams, said lost weight, was in good shape. His conditioning was noticeably different. Again, there were complications because coming off of knee injury. Payton said after watching Javonte college tape, he told Williams he wanted him at his junior college weight, and he responded. Always good sign when player takes the advice and applies it. Troy was not the only one that took notice of Javonte Williams really standing out in a good way on day one of training camp. Cecil Lammey, who I like as a reporter for this team, but he was definitely on the team of, could Williams get cut? Is Jaleel going to be the week one starter? He himself said Javonte Williams looked very good today. He slimmed down for mandatory minicamp, had more burst today at Broncos camp than he did in the spring. So great to see Javonte took advantage of the summer break and really worked hard to get himself into best shape of life season. And then to top it all off, Benjamin Albright tweeting out early in, or I guess not early in the practice because they can't tweet during the practice. But anyway, in other Broncos news, the Javonte Williams obituaries were hilariously premature. Took the first reps in every drill. I think P. Ryan has the toughest climb. I just want to say right now that I may not bat 1,000 on the show, but I never wavered from the fact that Javonte Williams is this team's starting running back. He may not be a true workhorse back that's going to get 300 touches, but he was never going to lose that number one spot to Jaleel McLaughlin throughout the spring when there's no pads and it's just flag football. So some of the faster, quicker, more nimble guys stand out, and some of the more bruising type players like Javonte Williams may not separate themselves from the pack very much. So yeah, I'll take a moment to have a little victory lap here. And let's just go back in time when I told you guys all summer and spring long. I'm not giving up on Javonte Williams. I'm not going to rule out Javonte Williams. I'm not quitting on Javonte Williams. And what do you know? Day one of training camp, who's RB1? Javonte Williams. So, Pookie, if you're watching this, I'm happy for you, man, because I felt like the overreactions were out of control in May and June. People were bored. People get bored in the NFL offseason. But don't lose sight of what's reality and what's fan fiction. So now we get ready for year 4 of Javonte Williams when, despite my nice little rant there, I'm not going to stick my head in the sand and act like Javonte Williams was an incredible running back last year. It was a down year for him. Averaged 3.6 yards a carry, 774 yards, just 3 touchdowns. He looked noticeably slower, to put it short. But I believe as he enters a contract year and he is 2 years removed from that horrific knee injury, we're going to see the best version of Javonte Williams we have seen yet. And that's what I've been saying all along. And I am not wavering, and I did not waver, despite some people over the dog days of the offseason just cooking up some ideas about Williams getting cut. What are you talking about? All right. Before we move on to the next storyline, I want to tell everyone watching about our friends over at Game Time. Today's show is sponsored by Game Time. If you love summer baseball and want to catch a Rockies game or any other major league team, you're going to want to give Game Time a shot. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. Now, something I love about Game Time is the Game Time guarantee. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less elsewhere, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. I put all that information for you guys in the comments and description of today's video. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Third observation I picked up on was a battle we have brewing for a starting linebacker role. The Josey Jewell replacement battle is alive and well underway, and the 2 early contenders to replace Jewell and stand alongside Alex Singleton are Cody Barton and Jonas Griffith. Now, throughout practice today, Barton and Griffith split first-team reps, so we've got ourselves a great training camp battle that's going to go along with the center battle, for example, and the cornerback battle. But I don't think this battle was at the top of everyone's radars. Now, let me give some background information on our 2 Warriors. Cody Barton was a 3rd-round draft pick by the Seattle Seahawks, played 4 years in the Pacific Northwest. Then last year he goes over to D.C., starts 13 games for the Commanders, and only after starting 16 total games in 4 years with the New Orleans Saints. Meanwhile, Jonas Griffith, you can look at his stats throughout his career. He's been with the Broncos for 2-3 years now. Missed all of last year. We'll get to that in a moment. But he had 92 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, a pick and a pass breakup in 22 career games. Jonas Griffith, meanwhile, is returning from a torn ACL after starting 12 games for the Broncos from 2021 to 2022. In 2022, he started 8 to 9 games, and I don't know if I've ever seen someone become such a fan favorite amongst, like, the cult followers of the Broncos. Like, not the average Joe, but I'm talking to people that are consuming Broncos content year-round. Jonas Griffith all of a sudden looked like, just an all-time linebacker, like a Brandon Marshall-type linebacker. So, an Al Wilson linebacker. Like, in terms of his, the perception of him from the fans versus what we saw on the field. Not knocking the guy, but I think we can all agree, like, people were falling head over heels in love with Griffith after 12 starts, which, that's Broncos country for you. I love it. Now, my prediction is I think Cody Barton is going to win this starting inside linebacker job. They signed him for a reason more than just having a little bit of competition. I think they think very highly of him. They've been very outspoken about his ability to play well on special teams. So my gut is Cody Barton starts next to Alex Singleton. Now, how would you grade the Broncos' defense? A, B, C, D, or F? I'd give Denver's defense a B minus. That's kind of been the grade I've been rolling with. I could be persuaded to actually, you know what, let's just give it a B altogether. Pat Surtain is good enough to kind of just drag the average up that high. I really do like the rotation of Browning, Cooper, and Benito. Zach Allen, John Franklin Myers on the defensive line. I love the pass rushing upside. Concerns about the run stopping abilities. We'll see what the secondary looks like without Justin Simmons. But yeah, put me down as a B for the Broncos defense. Some standouts I want to recognize by name after day one of training camp. So some good players standing out in good ways here. The first one being Zach Allen, which is an absolute menace on the defensive line. Swatting down passes, blowing up and disrupting plays. There's no shoulder pads on. There's no tackling. So anytime you see a defensive lineman start to stand out when he's got one hand tied behind his back, he's doing a lot of things right. Second standout, and this is a good one too, Greg Dulcich. He avoided the PUP list to start training camp, which was really encouraging. And then on the first day of camp open to the media, he is running all over the field. Looks like he never had a soft tissue injury to begin with. He was making big plays, hauling in passes from Bo Nix. Hopefully that's a young connection that's going to continue to grow. But Dulcich was definitely a big-time winner. If you want to sound smart in front of your friends and you learn one thing from this video, it's Greg Dulcich looked great on Wednesday. Fifth and final observation, Damarri Mathis potentially in for CB2. I saw Benjamin Albright mention this in his kind of like wrap-up from training camp, but we've got a good battle going for CB2 opposite of Pat Surtain. I think Levi Wallace, the veteran, has the early lead. I shouldn't say the early lead, but the betting favorite. But you've also got second-year man Riley Moss, a player the Broncos traded up for in the 2023 draft to secure. You got a rookie in Chris Abrams-Drain, although I think they view him purely as a nickel corner. But Damarri Mathis was getting a lot of runs with the CB2s opposite of Surtain. Like you have Surtain and Jaquan McMillan locked in as starters. So Mathis was getting the most runs with those two players after them. Now Mathis last year was, I don't know how to put it lightly, an absolute disaster to open up the year. And I'm not trying to get a laugh or anything, just like he was bad. There's no other way to put it. 126 out of 127 qualifying corners from Pro Football Focus. They had to bench him. They turned to Fabian Moreau. Hopefully he can grow from that, learn from that, and shows a lot of hard work from the offseason paying off here at the start of training camp. I think Levi Wallace, who started every game, played in every game, made a lot of starts last year for the Steelers, will end up winning that CB2 job. But maybe Riley Moss can make a good push. It's hard to comment on Riley Moss one way or the other because we've seen so little of him. We didn't see much of him at all last season. He missed all of training camp, all of the preseason, didn't get a lot of runs in the regular season. So we'll find out more about Moss, but for now, I'll go with Wallace. All right, last question before we let you guys go. How many wins for the 2024 Broncos? What's your win projection? I'm going to go with 9 wins. That was my initial record prediction, so I'm going to stick with the 9-8 record. They went 8-9 last year. You can make some arguments of the roster improving or being worse off than it was a season ago, but I just think Sean Payton's going to have this team in a better spot than where he had them in his first season. So I'll go 9-8. All right, summer hot takes to wrap up the video. It's another hot day in Denver, 95 plus degrees. So it's a dry heat hot take, and my dry heat hot take for today's video has a relation to one of the 5 storylines we went over. Javonte Williams, I think I gave this one last year, will lead the AFC West in rushing yards. Just go through the AFC West running backs with me. Kansas City got Pacheco. Who knows what you have with the Chargers? Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, Spiller. Your guess is as good as mine. I think it'll be Edwards, though. And then in Las Vegas, like Zamir White, Dylan Laube, like they don't have a lot of guys. They might have the weakest running back room in the NFL after the Cowboys or right before the Cowboys. So the competition is not that fierce in the AFC West for running backs. So I'll go with Javonte Williams. He may even lead the pack without getting to 1,000 yards. That's kind of how shaky the other running backs are. but it's got to be a hot take because it's dry heat. So Javonte Williams, coming off a rough year, will lead the division in rushing yards.